The Russian Revolution. Tsar Nicholas brought Russia into the First World War to protect Serbia from Austria-Hungary. In August 1914, before the end of the mobilization, the Russian army entered Germany to relieve the pressure on the French troops. However, Russia's weak economy, inefficiency and corruption in the government were for some time hidden under the cover of strong nationalism. A large part of the population becomes embittered by military failures and blames the government for it. German control of the Baltic Sea and German-Ottoman control of the Black Sea cut off Russia from foreign suppliers and potential markets. By mid-1915, the war had become demoralizing. Food and fuel reserves were running out, the number of victims was huge, inflation was rising. Strikes break out among underpaid factory workers and among the peasantry demanding agrarian reforms. Meanwhile, public distrust of the regime deepens due to rumors that semi-literate mystic Gregory Rasputin has great political influence in the government. His assassination at the end of 1916 ended the scandal, but did not restore the lost reputation of the autocracy. During 1916, the supply of the Russian army was improved. The Russian army fought against the German, Austro-Hungarian and Turkish armies on a front stretching from the Baltic Sea to the Caucasus and held back nearly half of the Central Powers' military strength. A great strike broke out on March 3, 1917, in a factory in Petrograd, formerly St. Petersburg. Within a week, all the workers stopped working and street fights broke out. When the Tsar dissolved the Duma and ordered the strikers back to work, the February Revolution broke out. The Duma refused to be dissolved, the strikers held various meetings as a protest against the regime, and the army openly sided with the people. Within a few days, the Duma installed a provisional government in 1917, headed by Prince Georgy Lavov. The next day the emperor abdicated. Meanwhile, the socialists in Petrograd formed a Soviet council of workers and soldiers that would give them the power they lacked in the Duma. In July, the president of the provisional government was dismissed and replaced by Alexander Kerensky, who was more progressive than his predecessor but not radical enough for the Bolsheviks. Kerensky's government marked that time, and the Marxist Soviets in Petrograd expanded their organization throughout the country by setting up local Soviets. Kerensky made a fatal mistake by continuing Russia's participation in the war, which was an extremely unpopular policy among the masses. Lenin returned to Russia from exile in Switzerland, with the help of Germany, who hoped that general dissent would force Russia to withdraw from the war. Thousands of peasants, workers and soldiers were excitedly waiting for Lenin at the railway station. After much behind-the-scenes maneuvering, the Soviets seized power in November 1917, and drove Kerensky and his provisional government into exile, in the events that would become known as the October Revolution. The National Assembly met in January 1918, and refused to be a puppet of the Bolsheviks, so Lenin's troops were disbanded. With the dissolution of the Constituent Assembly, all traces of bourgeois democracy were removed. Having removed the moderate opposition, Lenin signs the Brest-Litovsk Treaty, 1918, with Germany, by which Russia loses a large part of its territory.